It's a once-a-year meeting of the best, the Marlboro Challenge. A 100-mile run for IndyCar winners, pole sitters, and points leaders with a rich history. At the very first challenge in Miami, as the 10 headed for the first turn, it was Bobby Rahal that jumped in front. And then, using a clear course, he began to pull away. Mechanical ills beset Michael Andretti as he tried to leave after the mandatory pit stop. The last lap saw second-place Emerson Fittipaldi run totally out of fuel. And Bobby Rahal led the final 10 laps to become the first winner of the IndyCar's All-Star race. Miami was also the site of the second challenge. This time, the 10 answered the green in a heavy Florida squall. But the rain quickly passed and left Michael Andretti and Little Al to fight it out. Andretti took the lead on a quickly drying track. But then, with 1 lap to go, Al moved to pass. He hydroplaned on a puddle and took the wall. Michael Andretti took the checkered flag and the title of the Marlboro Challenge. In '89, the traveling contest moved to Laguna Seca, California. Here, the pole sitter Rick Mears lost control for a split second, but just long enough to let Michael take the lead. Then, as they headed for the required pit stop, Al Unser Jr. took the lead from his traditional rival. On that stop, as Michael roared away, he clipped his vent man, drawing a black flag penalty. The checkered flag flew for Al Unser Jr. But the action in the challenge wasn't over, as Bobby Rahal and Teo Bobby carried their fight a little too far. 2 years ago, the Marlboro Challenge took its first oval at Nazareth, Pennsylvania International Raceway. This time, the name was Mears. The rocket fell back at the start, but then carefully carved his way back, proving his title of the Oval Master. Rick finally ducked inside Michael to take the lead and the race. It was worth $250,000 for Rick Mears and for Penske Racing. 4 challenges, 4 different winners. Last year, the challenge moved back to Laguna Seca. Rick Mears jumped the pole sitter Michael Andretti on the start and led to the first pit stop. Michael then led 2 laps until he stopped for fuel and tires. Mears appeared uncatchable until the very last turn of the race when his engine sputtered and Michael Andretti sailed past to take his second challenge win. The 10 are ready. The location is Nazareth. It's the IndyCar All-Stars in the Marlboro Challenge. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. There's not a cloud in the sky over Pennsylvania International Raceway as we're ready for the challenge. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page, and IndyCar's All-Star Race is 100 miles for a $1 million purse. First place pays $300,000. Second place, $200,000. So you could very easily make a $100,000 mistake during this run. And then there's the pit stops. Consider that the fastest pit stop is paid with an additional $20,000. Now, on this track, these 10 All-Stars face a very tight, very fast, very difficult oval. It's very difficult to pass on this track. Therefore, the pit stops will be absolutely crucial. The win may actually occur in the pits. Earlier, Gary Gerould took a look at the pit stop strategy.
In a 100-mile sprint race such as the Marlboro Challenge, there basically is no strategy, with the exception of a mandatory pit stop. Sometime after 10 laps are complete and before 80 laps have gone by, every driver has got to bring his car onto pit road, change 2 tires, and hook up his fueling apparatus. Because it is a 100-mile race, and because that normal IndyCar standard of 1.8 miles per gallon is in force in the challenge, everybody will take on about a half a load of fuel. That'll take about 7 seconds. But here comes the strategy wrinkle now as to how many tires do you change. On an oval, the wear is out here on the right side, these 2 tires. Most teams logically will change those 2. Other teams say, we don't want to disrupt our normal rhythm. We'll change all 4. Still others say, well, because you get minimum wear up here in the left front, maybe we'll just change 3 tires. A couple of things to keep in mind. If you go out on 4 cold tires, it may take you an extra lap or 2 to build up race temperature and full competitive speed. If you change 2, you might have an advantage, 2 warm, 2 cold, but then you might also offset the balance of the race car. If you can gain, however, 2 seconds in the pits on a very tight racetrack where it's tough to pass, it may give you a better finishing position in a $1 million race. And on top of that, as a further incentive, $20,000 to the team with the fastest mandatory pit stop.
Michael Andretti, the pole sitter, made it easily into this field, but the youngest member of the field just barely made it in. With that story, here's Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, not only is he the youngest driver ever to make the Marlboro Challenge, he made it by the slimmest of margins. 4 10,000ths of a second was his pole position at Road America. They got him into the field. And, Paul, we've got to know you as an aggressive driver. Have you spoken with Roger Penske about the start of this race?
Well, you know, he said this is a money race. Tomorrow's the point. So, you know, we're going to go for all we can go for. So, you know, the field's tight. Everybody's really competitive. So, you know, I'm looking forward to a good race and moving up and trying to make some money.
Okay, you want to make some money, but you have a lot to prove also. You worked really, really hard to get in this race. What does it mean to you to be in the Marlboro Challenge?
Well, it's tremendous, really. It's one of the goals I set for myself coming into this year, and I worked all year really hard to try to get in it, and I feel really pleased about getting in. Now it's getting the job done and doing well in it.
Well, Paul, he starts in 8th place. He's worked real hard to get here, and you can bet he's going to move to the front. Paul?
So Paul Tracy is ready. The remainder of the 10 are ready, and we are set to go with the Marlboro Challenge and its $1 million prize.
In this 1992 Marlboro Challenge, gentlemen, start your engines!
So 10 engines now fire into life. The Marlboro Challenge is about to begin. Got a glimpse there of Scott Goodyear, a rookie to this run. You met Paul Tracy just a few moments ago. The rest are all solid veterans. There's John Andretti, the Andretti family with 3 different members in this field. A magnificent day. You can see blue skies over the top of Bobby Rahall's helmet. The sun will bear down on the track, but it's a cool breeze that blows across it. It couldn't be a more perfect day for racing. An absolutely beautiful afternoon in eastern Pennsylvania. Just outside of Nazareth, we are set and ready to go. So with the engines fired, there's $1 million on the line 100 miles away. And be it a rookie like Paul Tracy or a 2-time winner like Michael Andretti, for all the drivers, this is a very different run.
That's right, a very different, very unusual star-studded event here. But forget about the normal strategy employed at a regular IndyCar race here, because it's too short, not enough time for that strategy. Forget about being conservative in any way. Don't wait for the race to come back to you. It's only 100 miles, not enough time. No, this is just about a flat-out sprint race. Go for the goal, dash for cash, whatever you want to call this race. But it's all about money and prestige. And you know, when there's money and prestige at stake, very often these racing cars become disposable items. Also, the money and prestige, well, it filters all the way down to every team member, not just the driver.
You make it into this race by winning a race, qualifying on the pole, or being one of the top contenders in the point standings. That will put you in the challenge. On the diehard starting grid, the pole sitter is Michael Andretti, the defending champion of the Marlboro Challenge. Michael earned the pole by scoring 5 wins and 6 poles since the last Marlboro Challenge. Alongside is Bobby Rahal, the inaugural winner of the challenge. In the second row, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, twice a runner-up in this all-star race. And Al Unser Jr., the 1989 challenge winner and winner of the Indy 500. In row 3, it's Scott Goodyear, making his first appearance in the Marlboro Challenge. And Danny Sullivan, his 6th straight appearance in this all-star race. In the 4th row, it's Mario Andretti, the pole sitter at the Marlboro 500, and 23-year-old Paul Tracy, the youngest member of the all-star cast. In the 5th row, it's John Andretti, the 3rd member of the Andretti clan. He's in on PPG points. And Raul Boisel. When the Indy pole sitter Roberto Guerrero withdrew from the challenge, it cleared the way for Raul to claim the final spot on PPG points. So 10 of the best are set and ready to go. Today's coverage of the Marlboro Challenge is brought to you by Goodyear. gigantic purse on the line here at Pennsylvania International in the Marlboro Challenge. 100 miles, 100 laps. Michael Andretti, the defending champion, the only two-time winner of this event. So now we're set to go. A tremendous field. These 10, look at the numbers that they amassed just to come to this, the Challenge IndyCar Racing's all-star race. And there they are, tightly bunched, looking for as clean a start as they can manage on what will prove to be a very, very difficult course. One that makes it very tough to pass. We look for the green flag now. Michael Andretti picks up the pace. The green flag is out, and the challenge is underway as Bobby Rahal sweeps across the front of Michael Andretti and picks up the lead of the race. Look at Michael, though, as Michael comes immediately back to challenge Rahal, but Rahal holds him in place. That's Fittipaldi sitting in third place. First and second place, though, begin to pull away as the challenge is now run, and it's $1 million that they're looking for.
And a huge advantage taken by Bobby Rahal by getting the drop on Michael Andretti into that first turn. Michael then made an extremely brave move to go around the outside of Rahal. Rahal had nothing of it, but a huge move and a huge advantage by Rahal on turn one.
The first time that Bobby Rahal has led in the challenge since he won the inaugural race at Miami. Michael Andretti closing in now, and these two separating from third place Emerson Fittipaldi.
This is the most difficult corner here. Long turn two, but look at Michael. In the opening laps, he's usually very, very fast. It is so difficult to pass here because right here, turns 3 and 4 is the only braking area.
You got a glimpse of Fittipaldi running in third. We're back at the lead once again. Al Unser Jr. runs in fourth and is trying to close on Fittipaldi. He managed to close up a little bit on the last lap. There's first through fourth as they come off the corner. That's Scott Goodyear sitting in fifth place. Scott Goodyear has amassed a tremendous amount of points throughout the year with his finishes on ovals. So he promises to be very, very strong here today as well. But Bobby Rahal, of course, who has been so dominant throughout this season, is dominating once again. But you can't forget Michael Andretti, hometown track, a man with a tremendous record of laps led.
And you can see Emerson there closing up ever so slightly on Michael, and Al Unser Jr. running in fourth in the development Galmer chassis. They need to get a lot of information on this car because it's such a huge job to develop a car at this late stage in the race. But Al Jr. elected to run this car instead of his regular car because he believes this is potentially much faster.
On board now with fourth place Al Unser Jr. as 6 laps are complete. Just listen, Derek, tell us what the engine, what the driver's doing.
This is turn 2. Flat on the power. Now he'll brake a little bit just here. Now he's flat all the way through turn 1. You can hear he's flat. You can breeze a little bit here. Just a bit. Get back on as hard as you can.
And except for that little stretch going downhill on the backside of this track, it is almost a constant turn. Difficult for the drivers. It requires a very precise chassis setup in order to be successful here at Pennsylvania International Raceway. Fittipaldi now continues to try to close in on Michael Andretti as the challenge continues from Nazareth. Now for second place as Bobby Rahal has opened the interval back to Michael Andretti. But at the same time, Emerson Fittipaldi has closed down on Michael and begun this fight for second.
This is a fight. Emerson has been delighted with the handling of his Penske car here all weekend. He said in race condition, it's extremely good. Now the tires are well up to working temperature, but Sullivan's in trouble.
Danny Sullivan, as he pulls on to the pit road and slows down, obviously with a serious problem if he is in this early on. It's only 12 laps, 10 miles into the run.
And he's running very, very slowly, which suggests the engine has already been cut off or something's broken in the drive line. I doubt if Sullivan will get it running again.
Let's go to Gary Terrell.
Well, he came in dead stick, no fire in the engine. They're already unbuttoning all of the body work while Hark is talking with Danny Sullivan, who can only sit in helplessness. They're looking back and unbuttoning the body, and I think it's going to be a terminal situation here for Sullivan.
So Danny Sullivan apparently out of the action with a 100-mile sprint race. There's no opportunity to do any repairs whatsoever. Back to the battle for second place as Fittipaldi, who was very strong in the practice for this, but also was Michael Andretti. We're going to take a look back to the start of this race, and in doing so, we'll watch it from Scott Goodyear's onboard camera. Here as they came off the final corner. Scott sitting 2 rows back from the front of the field.
There's a lot of room here, but you can see already before he gets to the start-finish line, he's almost flat. Now he backs off.
The quicker state onboard camera, Scott Goodyear, as he works lap number 1.
And this is the difficult bit. See the car move around. Cold tires. You got to be so careful on these oval tracks with cold tires.
Just that quickly, 1 lap complete, and the race settles in for Scott Goodyear, who now runs in 4th place. As with a very quick lap, he was able to get past Al Unser Jr. But the quickest lap of the race at 170 miles an hour thus far has been turned by Emerson Fittipaldi in this continued pursuit of Michael Andretti for second.
And it's always a good omen for a driver when you can post the fastest lap at this early stage in the race when everything is still settling down a little bit. But even if Emerson is a lot faster than Michael, there is so little room here to make a legitimate passing attempt. It becomes very, very difficult.
Paul Tracy was able to get around Mario Andretti as Danny Sullivan headed into the pits. Tracy is now up to 6th, but look at Fittipaldi. He closes down looking for racing room on Michael Andretti. Michael was very quick in the practice session before this event, though. Almost 0.2 of a second faster than the rest of the field.
And the only real way to make a pass is on this downhill run that Emerson's about to go on now. This is it. This downhill run is the only place realistically you can make an attempt to pass. That's what Emerson is trying to work out right now, how he could just get an advantage over Michael.
Fittipaldi seems to be able to close up coming off the last turn and across the start-finish line. Gets a nice turn into turn 1, but then Michael seems to take over.
Oh, Emerson is very, very quick through that turn 1.
You've seen first, that's Ray Hall, then second Michael, then Fittipaldi. Now there comes Scott Goodyear through, Paul Tracy and Rick Mears' number 4 car, Al Unser Jr., John Andretti, Mario Andretti, and there is Raul Boisel. So that's the field in the Marlboro Challenge with Danny Sullivan still sitting in the pits. Back at the front of the field, you see just ahead of him there is just an occasional glimpse of that black dot. That's Bobby Rahal. There he is as he continues to pull away. Now a full 1.5 seconds ahead of this battle for second place.
And in a sprint race like this, what Rahal loves to see is Michael having trouble with Emerson Fittipaldi, because as long as Michael has to keep Emerson at bay, it really gives Rahal the breathing room he needs just to inch away a little bit each lap, and that's what he's at.
Danny Sullivan's car is being retired from the field as they push it back toward the paddock area. So Danny Sullivan out of the run will take 10th place. That's worth $25,000 for that little 7-mile run for Danny. Let's go pit side and Gary Gerald.
Danny, I know that you haven't had problems with the motor all season long, and in this all-star game for IndyCar drivers, it's a tough time to have motor woes.
Well, it is. It's unfortunate. Like you said, we haven't had any problems with the Chevy all season, and then to go have it really from the beginning. I mean, the thing started going off song probably 2nd or 3rd lap. I started losing ground, then it just quit. So
let's make you a prognosticator. Who's going to win this thing?
Well, looking at it right now, it looks like you know, Bobby's running awful strong, but it looks like maybe Emerson's being held up a little bit by Michael. He's awful close to not being passed, and if he gets around him, we could have a good race.
All right, thanks, Danny. Paul?
25 miles, 25 laps, 1/4 of the distance already complete. All of those laps led by Bobby Rahal. Michael Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi continue to be locked in their battle for second place. Way as Al Unser Jr. turns onto the pit road with 27 laps complete and goes in for routine service. Here's Gary.
Caught us by surprise, Paul, as Junior came flying in here. They take their mandatory stop early. We get a look from the back of the car as he lights up the tires and gets out of here, and I honestly couldn't tell you if he went for just 2 tires or all 4.
10.7 seconds for Danny Sullivan's in and out, and boy, it was a flurry.
Actually, actually Al Unser Jr. is Danny Sullivan's teammate, but that was a long pit stop. I'm surprised. It almost looked leisurely.
So the mandatory stop is complete for the first car as we take a look now at Scott Goodyear with Paul Tracy beginning to worry him. Again, the rules of this race are that you must make one pit stop, you must change at least 2 tires, and of course fuel is necessary, though not a great deal of it. And look at Paul Tracy as he darts inside Scott Goodyear, underneath Al Unser Jr., and picks up the place. So Paul Tracy is having a wonderful day. He's been moving steadily forward. Now the Quaker State onboard camera with Scott Goodyear as you see them begin to pull away from him.
And a brave move that was by Paul Tracy. That's the type of young driver, 23-year-old driver, brave move you see on an oval track to flash past 2 cars in one fell swoop down in one of the only areas, and we said that earlier, that you can actually pass here at Nazareth. Now Goodyear, you can see, follows in the wheel tracks of Al Jr. Al Jr., remember, has cooler tires on the outside. Oh, look, you can see Goodyear. He closes right up, exiting turn 2.
Back on second place, Michael Andretti as the leader of the race. Bobby Rahal just ahead now begins to encounter a little bit of traffic. Only 1 pit stop made thus far. That was Al Unser Jr., fuel and 3 tires. And you can see Raul Boisel just ahead of Bobby Rahal. And because of his positioning, that's allowing Michael Andretti to close in, and Fittipaldi closes as well. Let's get an update from Jan Beekes.
As we watch Emerson Fittipaldi close in, Paul, he's called in on the radio. The report is the car is very good. If you remember, Emerson very rarely ever calls in on the radio. For him to say very good, that is excellent. They also have just now radioed back to him and said, you may now use more fuel. You're ahead of your fuel schedule. Look for him to really go after Michael. Paul?
So with 34 laps complete for the leader, Bobby Rahal, the rest of the field now closes in. Rahal having a little problem handling the traffic created by Raul Boisel. Now Rahal ducks to the inside, but it's so difficult to pass. Even if Raul had a place for him, it wouldn't be a good opportunity, but it's a great opportunity for Michael. Michael closes right back on the back of Rahal, but that corner cost him.
And now look what happens here. He dives down to the inside because he sees Emerson taking a big run at him. So Rahal's inability to fly past Boisel has really closed up these front 3.
Focus of the race now on Michael Andretti in his continued pursuit of Bobby Rahal. But he has to be so very careful because Fittipaldi in the 5 car is just behind him. Let's go pit side again. Jerry Gerald.
Paul, checking on the handling for Michael Andretti, he reports an understeer problem. So when they do make their mandatory stop, they will make a wing change to try to impact the balance of the car. Also, Al Unser Jr. in early because the car was very loose. They changed 3 tires. That was their strategy on the mandatory stop.
Michael Andretti looking for racing room alongside Raul Boisel as he continues his chase of Bobby Rahal. And Michael gets past. Now the job is up to Fittipaldi.
And around the outside, Michael went. Another very difficult thing to do. But the great thing about oval track racing is you can make passes around the outside.
And look just behind Fittipaldi. That's Paul Tracy who is closing in. Boy, what a spectacular run that young man is having.
Spectacular run to come from where he went. Remember, he's doing this through passing cars now, not really through attrition. So Paul Tracy looks to have everything well in hand.
Started back in 8th place, just turned a lap at 173.2 miles an hour. That's the fastest lap thus far in the race.
Now Fittipaldi got by Boisel. That's what Tracy needs to do as fast as possible, because when you come off the power here, even just for a short time, you lose huge amounts of racetrack.
Paul Tracy now having to handle up Raul Boisel, who has been a bit of an obstacle for the leaders as they've come through. Bobby Rahal continues to lead the Marlboro Challenge, chasing him, Andretti and Fittipaldi. In 7th place, Rahal ducks to the inside. Now Mario certainly can see his son just behind him in the mirrors, but remember, there is so much money riding on this race that I'm not so sure the family relationships are going to work out.
Oh, and look what Mario does. He moves to the outside of the racetrack, realizes he is not in the battle here for the lead, and does the right thing. Moves over, lets Michael through, and everybody's stood up on the grandstand. But look at Emerson now.
Emerson Fittipaldi trying to get past Mario Andretti, and Mario moves for him as well. So a good bit of sportsmanship by Mario Andretti there as he lets the leaders of the race come streaming past so they can resume their battle at the front.
And traffic is so important here because as we go back on board with Michael.
Don't forget the final race of the IndyCar season, the battle for the championship, the PPG Cup. Next Sunday, October 18th, 9 o'clock Eastern, right here on ESPN. And what a fight that is going to be.
Again, in car, this is the only braking area. Now, Michael radioed that he's got push. Oh, look at this, down the inside. That again is Paul Tracy trying to find a way past Mario.
Traffic holding up Paul Tracy, both Raul Boisel and Mario, though Mario seems very, very aware of cars closing behind him. Raul has not been as aware throughout the running of this race. Let's get a further update from the pits and Jan Vikas.
We checked in with the Penske crew to find out about Paul Tracy's
nearing the halfway point with 47 laps, 47 miles complete. Paul Tracy, who moved from 8th up to 4th, now comes in for routine service. Here's Jan.
Paul Tracy comes in. He locked the brakes. Coming in, they've got all the fuel in. He's off the jacks. He's underway. No problems like Road America in killing the car. He's underway, but not quite as quick as we would expect, Paul.
No, about 11 seconds in and out of the pits. Not as fast as Al Unser Jr. stop. And remember, for those crews, $20,000 to the quickest stop of the run. Quicker State onboard camera. Scott Goodyear's car as he moves past Mario Andretti.
And Mario obviously not happy with this car. In practice this morning, he got out scratching his head a little bit, had a conversation, a lengthy one with his engineer, Brian Lyles, and there was something, a gremlin in this car they could not put their finger on, and it's obviously hindering Mario greatly this afternoon.
Scott Goodyear, the downhill backstretch. The order still this man at the front, Bobby Rahal. Just past the halfway point now with 51 laps complete. You see the interval back to second place. Michael Andretti and then Emerson Fittipaldi lies in third. They have not yet made their stops. But Mario Andretti finds time to turn down onto the pit road. The car, as suggested, not handling to his liking thus far, and it's actually a fairly slow approach into the pits that Mario made. The battle, though, continues at the front of the field. Bobby Rahal, Mario has made his stop in and out. Even though the leisurely approach, the stop is good at 10.6 seconds, and Mario is back into the fight.
And the longer this race goes on, the more it begins to fall into the hands of the crews in the pit lane. If you can't pass on the racetrack, you maybe can get the job done in the pit lane. This morning, Emerson's crew had all the tires changed in 6.8 seconds. That's what the mark they'll strive for during his stop.
Al Unser Jr. and John Andretti running side by side as they've made their move past Raul Boisel, and they touch. The two of them get together. They touched a little bit earlier, and then they touch completely. Al Unser Jr. slides to a stop down in the first turn. The yellow flag comes out, and in a perfect time for the stop for the leaders.
Well, Al Unser Jr. did not realize that John was outside him, and Al Jr. moved up to the outside to the wall. John was already there, nowhere to go, and basically Al Jr. squeezed John into the wall, and Al Jr., although I don't think there's much damage, the engine's obviously stalled.
We already know from the race at Vancouver what a powerful, what a strong car that Galmer chassis can be. If they can get it restarted, then in theory he in fact could move on. Johnny Rutherford in the pace car holding the cars back as they come onto the front stretch, and now they're ready to go into the pits, and Michael Andretti wasn't happy with that acceleration. I think he was surprised, feeling that Rahal in fact got past the pace car. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Bobby Rahal had a hard time finding his pit. He had to really hit the brakes hard, lock them up. Now he's away. A couple of the crewmen fall as he burns out of here in just under 9 seconds. But the problem for him was getting into the pit. Let's see if he was able to protect the lead.
Taking advantage of the yellow, Michael Andretti also stops. Smooth stop for Michael as well. So Bobby Rahal in and out of the pits. Michael in and out. Emerson Fittipaldi in and out of the pits. Under the yellow flag when John Andretti got together with Al Unser Jr. We'll see if Al gets restarted. Challenge owing to an accident between John Andretti and Al Unser Jr. Derek Daly, let's take a look at that situation again.
Exiting turn 4. Now look at John Andretti is outside Al Unser Jr. Al Jr. does not realize he's out there. Now look what happens. Al Jr. doesn't know he's out there. Look, squeezes him, hits him, puts him in the wall, and then comes across the racetrack himself, jumps on the brakes because he knows he's on the grass, and the engine is stalled, and that's why the record truck has to go out.
Well, he got on the brakes. There's the start of it.
Oh, in regular speed, you can just see how violent even that small impact can be from the in-car camera.
You also see how very close he got to Scott Goodyear. This was Bobby Rahall's stop. As several crew members went for the ground, take a look at the hose on the vent hose, still connected.
Well, that will be a penalty for Bobby Rahal.
So Rahal, it looks like the nozzle and everything was able to pull clear. You remember at this very racetrack a couple of years ago, Rick Mears pulled out and actually ripped off that hose. As we go back to green, the field lines up with Bobby Rahal at the front and Emerson Fittipaldi in second. As a result of that pit stop, Michael Andretti in third, and here is Michael trying to get him. Bobby Rahal moves into the pits. This should be answering a penalty for leaving the pits with that hose still attached, and that gives Emerson Fittipaldi the lead of the race. Rahal comes in, and just that quickly the IndyCar officials roll him back out, but long enough for Emerson Fittipaldi to pick up the lead, and now he fights with Michael Andretti. But here is Michael Andretti on the pit road as well. Why would Michael be heading in?
They both got black flagged. We know exactly what happened to Rahal. We'll have to find out what happened to Michael, but Michael will be furious.
And in fact, he is, as Michael, just a quick stop-and-go penalty. The reason's still a bit of a mystery to us. We know exactly why Rahal was stopped, but it benefits this guy. Emerson Fittipaldi is out in front in the challenge, perhaps looking at his first win.
And now Rahal and Michael have a huge mountain to climb to try and catch Emerson Fittipaldi, because we saw earlier on before the pit stop that Emerson has potentially the fastest car in this race, certainly at the start, at the first half of the race.
After the stop-and-go penalty for Rahal, he is now in second place. After the penalty for Michael, Michael has fallen back to third, and Scott Goodyear lies in fourth. Paul Tracy is in fifth. Fittipaldi, though, has picked up a tremendous advantage with 65 laps or 65 miles complete. On board fourth-place car, the Quaker State onboard camera, Scott Goodyear's machine. Let's get an update on Michael Andretti from Gary Gerald. Gary?
Paul, we understand Michael Andretti is absolutely livid in the cockpit of his car, and you can well imagine. He and Rahal both penalized, we understand, for an infraction coming in onto pit road. They were told in the driver's meeting you must maintain a pace with the safety car until you hit pit road, then you can accelerate. The officials determined that they were premature in the acceleration. Andretti is really one angry race driver right now.
Well, of course, we saw it from the onboard camera. The reason that he probably is, he even gestured at the officials. Rahal, as soon as he felt he was alongside the pace car, appeared to accelerate, viewed from Michael Andretti's onboard camera. Michael raised his hand to point to that. Now, the officials are telling us that Michael's black flag was failing to blend in properly following his pit stop. So maybe he was just already angry by the situation going into the pits. But what is interesting is that suggests that Bobby Rahal's black flag was not for the violation of the pit box, but for the approach in.
Well, whatever it is, the difficulty is you cannot argue about it now. You have to accept the penalty. You have to go back and take the black flag and argue about it later.
Scott Goodyear and Paul Tracy. As Paul Tracy cycles around Goodyear, picks up fourth place. Fittipaldi still running at the front of the field. Now the officials reporting that the First black flag to Bobby Rahal was for the violation with the pace car going into the pits, and they are going to display a second black flag to Rahal as a result of the violation in the pit stop. So that is devastating to the early leader of the race, Bobby Rahal. Emerson Fittipaldi still the leader here, though. Michael Andretti just turned a nice fast lap, the average speed running up to 176 miles an hour, as Michael Andretti is the fastest man on the circuit. But Paul Tracy has been working his way toward the front. Bobby Rahal coming back up to speed after answering a second black flag of the day, this time for the violation in the pit box when he left with the vent hose still attached. Let's get an update from Gary Gerald.
Well, you talk about frustration and high emotions. It's typified in the Rahal pit. Carl Hogan, what can you tell us about having to come in here a second time?
Well, the first time they told us we had a blend violation, and they had Michael also, so we both had to come in. Then we went out, and then they said they wanted to check for a fuel leak. So we said, there is no fuel leak. Ask the observers. They were being stubborn. They wouldn't ask. They said, we got to come in. We came in. They looked at it. There was no fuel leak.
It looked like Bobby wanted to talk to the official himself when he came in the second time.
Well, I think after the race, he may do more than talk to him.
Thank you, Carl.
Well, it cost Bobby Rahal dearly. There's the stop itself. Rahal, as a result of 2 violations on this single stop in the run, has fallen now to 6th place. Crew goes to work on the car, but keep an eye on that man with the hose over his shoulder. That's the venting hose for the fuel tank.
You mentioned it earlier. There it is, still trying. Look at that. Boom, yanks it out of the top of the car. Remember Rick Mears, you mentioned it earlier. He did a similar thing and had to get a stop-and-go penalty. That's why Rahal got it this time.
But speaking to the issue of the fuel leak, these systems are dry brake systems. The minute you pull that nozzle clear, they've done a lot of work and a lot of research, and in fact the nozzles are very expensive, so that when they do pull clear, there is no fuel coming out of there at all. It's a safety feature.
Now Rahal has to play catch-up. The problem is he's got a traffic situation ahead of him, and for Boesel, remember, he cannot back off too much and move out of the way. But, you know, I doubt if Boesel knows that Rahal's had all these stops, so he may just move out of the way, let him go.
The problem, too, for Rahal is that if he intends to be a contender at all now, he's running out of time. And he is 2 laps behind the leader of this race. So after 65 laps, here's your Valvoline race recap. Emerson Fittipaldi was the leader. Bobby Rahal, of course, the early leader of the run. And the single caution came as a result of the touch between Al Unser Jr. and John Andretti.
Now this battle with Rahal and Boesel is actually for position. Boesel is 5th, and Rahal, after 2 stops, is actually running in 6th place. So Boesel has no need to do anything except drive his own race, use the race truck he wants, and let Rahal work his own race out.
Of course, each of these positions worth a great deal of money. Raul Boesel can earn $70,000 if he finishes right there in 5th. If he moves forward, it's worth another $10,000. So it is worth his while to drive as hard and fast as he can. Cars out of the run, of course, Al Unser Jr. with the contact. Mario Andretti has retired. Danny Sullivan was out earlier. And, of course, the situation with John Andretti is that he has been able to continue on after that contact and runs in 7th place. But Al Unser Jr. is now with Gary Gerald.
Al, you were involved in that contact out there. What happened, and is that what eventually ended up putting you out of this competition?
Well, I believe so, yeah. Couldn't tell with the rear end the way it was. I think we knocked the wheels out of alignment, but the car's just not handling it all, and it was very slow, and John Andretti was on the outside of me, and I couldn't see him. I lost sight of him, and I knew Goodyear was below me, so I tried to give Goodyear some room. Right at that point, John Andretti shows up on the outside of me, and we touched, and I went spinning.
Well, not the big payday he'd hoped for. Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Paul?
Al Unser Jr. out of the run at this very track that brought him a championship 2 years ago, but brought him that championship in an impact with the wall, so it has not been a lucky track for little Al.
Now, you might think this is strange. Rahal, we know he's fast. He led the race earlier, yet he cannot pass Bozell. Lap after lap, he follows him. The reason is Bozell is fast through turn 2. Rahal cannot get close enough to him to outbrake him into 4. He has another go here down the inside, but look at Bozell. Bozell is fast into the corner. Rahal has no option but to back off, and look at Michael puts a lap on Rahal.
Boy, Michael just flashes past Bobby Rahal. Well, Michael Andretti chasing Emerson Fittipaldi, though he is a full 18 seconds back from Fittipaldi, trying his best to catch up. Remember, Michael also suffering a black flag penalty, but has been able to maintain second place behind Emerson Fittipaldi. There's the serial scoring for Bobby Rahal. Different laps in his positioning throughout the race, and of course at 6th place as a result of 2 black flags. A situation that Bobby Rahal may try and resolve at the end of this race, but won't affect his run whatsoever. Fittipaldi is still the leader. We now have 10 laps to go in the challenge. Michael Andretti has a long way to make up. The closing laps now of the Marlboro Challenge, and it's $1 million purse, $300,000 to the winner. Will it be this man, car number 5, Emerson Fittipaldi? He's had a very strong car throughout the practice and certainly through the race. Let's get an update from Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, have you ever heard that saying that they use in racing? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. When Emerson Fittipaldi came in, he did one thing, the crew that is, that nobody else did. They only changed left tires. The car was so good, they left the right side tires on the car, and of course, he's in the class of the field the whole race. Paul?
Fittipaldi with a splendid run, of course aided by black flags given to second place Michael Andretti, and 2 black flags to Bobby Rahal, the early leader of this race, on board with Michael.
It's a very difficult job to win a race. We saw earlier that Emerson was very, very fast, but you're right. When Michael and Rahal had their own problems, created their own problems, it just made things so much easier for Emerson.
Now with 5 laps to go, Michael Andretti recognizing that it's 14 seconds ahead to the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi. That 14 seconds is a $100,000 difference for Michael.
Emerson at the Marlboro Challenge has run out of fuel before on the last lap. I'm not saying it'll happen now, but so many things can still happen in these Marlboro Challenge races right up to that very last lap.
You saw that at the start of this telecast. There's Teresa Fittipaldi as she urges Emerson on. Fittipaldi was running in 2nd at Miami and ran out of fuel. They cut it very close, ran out of fuel with just about a lap to go. But that happened here today. Now 3 laps to go for Emerson Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti doing everything he can to catch up. He has been whittling time off of Fittipaldi's lead, but time is on Emerson's side.
Time is on Emerson's side, and position on the racetrack is very much on Emerson's side. You can see ahead of him, absolute clear track, nice undisturbed there, no traffic to worry about. The perfect situation for a driver to be in at this late stage on an oval track.
Next time across the start-finish line, Emerson Fittipaldi will see the white flag indicating 1 more lap to go. Michael will as well, but he will be 14 seconds behind Fittipaldi with a single lap to make it up. So Emerson Fittipaldi acknowledges the white flag and works the final mile here at Pennsylvania International Raceway. The Marlboro Challenge and its $1 million purse is just ahead as the celebration begins, and Fittipaldi has taken the win. $300,000 to Emerson Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti comes across the line in 2nd, $200,000 to Michael. So Emerson Fittipaldi has finally won in the challenge and done it here in Michael Andretti's hometown. Has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. Emerson Fittipaldi takes the challenge. Now here with the Ford Winner's Circle interview is Harry Gerald.
Emerson Fittipaldi comes out of the car, goes for the helmet. 4 times in the past 5 challenges, he's been a top 5 finisher. For the first time now, he gets the accolades that comes home as a winner. And Emerson, your team in the pits was magnificent and surprised everybody by changing left side rubber. Was that plan going in, or did that just happen in the course of the race?
No, we had planned that. I think it was a great pit strategy, and you know, my car was running beautiful the whole race. I mean, I had no problem. It was very fast, and it was a great race. I'm very pleased to win the first time the Marlboro Challenge. I'm really happy.
Right, Emerson Fittipaldi enjoying a great year as we go to Jan Beekes.
Michael Andretti, a blend line violation. How did you see it from the cockpit?
I didn't see it as a violation. I know Bobby did because I was pointing at him because I knew that he did it, and I purposely was watching the pace car not to pass it before the blend line, and I don't know where they got that because I was even pointing and gesturing that Bobby was doing it, so quite a surprise.
Well, blend line violation. Got to watch that pace car. Let's get back up to Paul.
Some considerable controversy here, but it is Emerson Fittipaldi that celebrates as the winner of the Marlboro Challenge. There's the top 10. The biggest amount of the payout goes to Fittipaldi with $300,000. Allenser Jr. wins the extra $20,000 for the fastest pit stop. And Bobby Rahal is very angry. He's with Gary Gerald.
I'm cool. Well, here's Bobby Rahal, and obviously a very unhappy Bobby Rahal. What is your bone of contention here, Bobby?
Well, we weren't leaking anything. And in a race like this, you know, if you're blowing smoke and stuff like that, and it's obvious to the guy behind, I had Michael behind me, you know, if you're blowing that, I can see it. But the thing's dry as a bone, and an officiating cost me $200,000.
Is there any recourse whatsoever? Can you file any protest?
And what? The guy who finished second say, you know, oh, okay, I'll give it to Bobby? Hell no, there's nothing you can do. But I don't understand how officiating can create such a situation where they can cause such an impact on the race for no reason. You know, I mean, I understand if they say I you know, jump the, you know, cut the, on the blend line up there. Hey, Michael went with me. I thought we were legal. All right, I'm willing. I'm a big boy. I'm willing to accept that. But to be penalized basically $200,000 for nothing, I don't agree with.
Thank you, Bobby.
The senior IndyCar official is Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach. He's with Jan Bikas.
Wally, can you tell us about the penalties for both Michael Andretti and for Bobby Rahal? Bobby admits that he went past the pace car. Tell us about Michael's penalty.
He did the same thing. Actually, he was right behind Bobby when they came in. They both advanced beyond the pace car before they hit the blend line. They were clearly told at the drivers' meeting that they have to stay behind the pace car until the pace car clicks off the blend line, which is over here in turn 4. Both of them advanced well beyond it. It was a clear violation.
All right, here's the situation. Apparently, Bobby Rahal mistook which line was correct. Look at this line. That line that just passed under him, that's wrong. Rahal accelerates. Now Michael accelerates. There is the blend line. Both cars are accelerating past the pace car as they cross that line. And then the situation on Rahal's pit stop, well, as he pulled out, the vent hose was still connected to the top of the fuel tank. They brought him in for the penalty for leaving with it connected and also checked for any leaks. Next Sunday, the race that will determine the IndyCar Championship, the Toyota Monterey Grand Prix. Congratulations to Emerson Fittipaldi. I'm Paul Page. For Derek Daly, Jan Bikas, and Gary Gerald. We'll see you next Sunday.